Hello and welcome. I am Public Affairs Supervisor Holly Walter, and I am thrilled to introduce you to Podsdale, Scottsdale's new employee podcast put together by the Office of Communication. Podsdale is going to be all about city news, interesting people, places, projects, and things happening throughout the city, but most of all, it is about you, the employee. So with that said, we do want you to be part of Podsdale, whether that's joining us for a future episode as a guest, sending us news to share, or even coming on as a co-host. Today, though, I have my colleague with me, Public Affairs Specialist Stephanie Harada. She will join us every episode for what we are calling our Fast Five.
That's right. Thanks, Holly. I'm Stephanie Harada with 5 fast things happening around the city you need to know. We start the list at number 5. Employee gyms. They're open. That's right. The workout rooms at City Hall, North Courtyard, and other city facilities are now open to employees. Of course, we have rules in place to keep things safe. Equipment will be sanitized and physical distancing is required. If you're looking for a good workout during your work week, Club SAR is another great option. It's open to the public and employees are welcome to sign up for an employee fitness pass. Check City Point to learn more. Number 4 is all about becoming your own chef. Want to eat healthier but don't know where to start? How about 4 weeks on the A to Z's of making tasty food at home? You'll learn shortcuts and skill sets to plan, shop, prep, and cook. Sessions begin April 6th. Visit City Point to sign up. The Pony Express at Appaloosa Library is in our number 3 spot. It's a library self-service model that allows the public to enter and use the branch with no library staff on the floor, simply by swiping their library card. Registration for this new self-service option started March 8th, and Appaloosa became accessible to approved users on March 15th. Visit scottsdalelibrary.org for more. At number 2, Earth Day. It's April 22nd, but in Scottsdale, we celebrate all month long. Scottsdale's Green Building Program will host 2 webinars. We're planting 51 new trees throughout the city, and the library will host a great waste audit so households can keep track of what they are disposing. We have a whole list of events and great programming happening the entire month. Go to scottsdaleaz.gov, search Sustainable Scottsdale to find out more. Our number 1 Fast 5 spot goes to Code Inspector Jorge Espinoza. Jorge was recently at Stonegate Park when he noticed a vehicle parked sideways in 2 handicapped spots and found an unresponsive female driver behind the wheel. Her doors were locked, so Jorge immediately called 911 and used his jacket to shield the woman from the sun. Scottsdale Fire arrived to provide treatment and transport the woman to the hospital. If it hadn't been for Jorge's heroic actions, the outcome could have been much worse. Jorge, kudos to you. And that's our Fast 5 for this episode of Podsdale. Got something for a future Fast 5? Tell us by emailing communications@scottsdaleaz.gov. I'll turn it back over to you. Holly?
Thank you, Stephanie. I look forward to having you on every episode to share our Fast 5 with our listeners. And by the way, listeners, be sure that you're paying attention throughout the entire podcast because of whether it's our Fast 5 or our interview. We will have a trivia question at the end of every episode. And if you email communications@scottsdaleaz.gov with the correct answer, we are going to enter you into a drawing for a fabulous prize. I can't reveal what that prize is right now, but I can tell you it is fabulous. Okay, and our Podsdale guest today comes from the library. We would like everyone to meet Erin Riley. She is our Library Adult Services Coordinator. She's been with the city of Scottsdale for about 5 years now. Thank you, Erin, for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Holly. I'm happy to be here.
To start things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were doing prior to joining us here at the city of Scottsdale?
Let's see. That's a good question. Right before I worked here, I worked in a tiny little post office inside a bike shop. But that's a side story, which we could go into another time. I did not actually take a traditional route to becoming a librarian. My background is in philosophy and law. And while I was in law school, getting my degree, I worked doing research for professors and worked in the library. And so when I went on to graduate school after law school, because I'm a gigantic geek, I I ended up working for the dean of the law school doing library research. And I, kind of really enjoyed that side of it a lot more. I had young children then, and working, 90 billable hours a week in a law firm wasn't as appealing as it had been before I started law school. So I just got much more into the research. And so I worked in public libraries and in academic libraries. And so when I saw that there was an opening here at Scottsdale at the library that I love to go to all the time, I applied and was lucky enough to get a job. And I started as the 20-hour weekend anchor librarian at the Mustang branch. And I worked Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for about a year and a half, and then got a full-time job. Became a lead librarian at Civic Center. And then when the job for the adult services coordinator opened up, I was lucky enough to be asked to interview and then get the job. So that was it was almost 2 years ago. And that's how I got here.
Great. Well, that does sound like an unusual path. We might have to revisit that job at some other point. But to move forward, let's talk about particularly what has happened within the last year with COVID-19. Really, that has caused significant change within the library system. You've really had to be innovative. You've had to adapt to the pandemic, everything from offering curbside service. You've developed online library card registrations. Our branches were closed for a short while, but really the library never stopped operating, correct?
That's right, Holly. We were able to keep our drive-throughs open even while all of our buildings were closed, which is really just a short period of time because some of them reopened, closed in March and reopened as quickly as June. But even while anything was closed, we were offering services through our drive-up windows, and we added curbside, as you mentioned. And that's when we were able to start getting people library cards online and letting them renew online so that they never really had to be without the library services and materials.
And you've also formed a virtual library branch there, among other things. To kick this off, what is a virtual library?
Well, as you already know, all of our physical library branches are named after horses, except for Civic Center, of course. We've got Mustang, Arabian, and Appaloosa. And so our virtual branch, which you can find on our website, is called Pegasus, because that's a horse, a mythical horse. But this is a real place that kind of collects all of the information on our website about our virtual programming and services. And this has been developed in the last 6 to 8 months. It's something we had been working on anyway, but the necessity of having to really rethink our services because of COVID-19 and think about more contactless delivery for our services really spurred us to get going with this and find a place on our website that we could collect all of this information for patrons. So there's information about how to get a library card online. There's information about how to renew your library card online. There's a lot of programming that you can link to. We have story time programming and kids, crafts, and STEAM programming that's accessible. And then also our adult services programming that's available. It can be linked from that Pegasus branch, which you can get to from the homepage of our website. We also, though, have links to other research databases and information about our digital library, which has soared in circulation during the time of COVID. We have a lot of people who are avid library users who've never stepped foot in a physical branch because they can do everything they need from reserving to borrowing to reading right online. And that all those digital services include books and audiobooks, magazines, movies, comic books, anything you can stream, you can access with your library card. We actually have also started a series of completely virtual programs called Books and More, and we have one that comes out of Civic Center Library, which is called Get Lit, and one that comes out of Mustang Library called In the Stacks, and then we're going to have a new one coming out of Arabian Library called Turning the Page.
It's really an incredible variety of services, and to take a look at this virtual library, and I love the name, by the way, Pegasus, that ties in nicely with our branches, but
right?
Is it simply visiting the website?
It is. You just go to our homepage, and the first thing you'll see is Pegasus, the virtual library branch, and you can click on it, and it just opens up all the services that are available.
And of course, it's super easy for a city employee to sign up for a library card. You don't have to live in Scottsdale to do that, correct?
That's right. Anyone in Maricopa County can get a library card, and we do have now. So all you have to do is go to our website, click on library card services, open the application, upload a piece of postmarked mail with your name on it and a utility bill that comes to your address, and you're in business and you can live anywhere in Maricopa County and get a card for free. And we do actually deliver people's library materials right to their office or their workstation in the city. That's a service that we've been trying to do for Scottsdale employees since the pandemic started.
Great. And that's simply scottsdalelibrary.org to get yourself set up to do that.
That's right.
Let's talk about your position in particular as our adult services coordinator. You've probably had to make a lot of changes, I imagine, with the pandemic in place. What do we offer though with adult services, and what is
with
that?
our adult services are all of the programming from on up. So our youth services team was very quick off the block to get virtual story times and different kinds of programming taped and ready for our youngest patrons. And it took us a little bit longer, I have to admit, to try to get some of our adult services into virtual form. And one of the reasons is that we have a huge contingent of fabulous volunteers who've done a lot of the work here at the library. We have a great staff, of course, who are fabulous, but they are really supplemented for a lot of our adult services programming by volunteers. So all of our ESL programs had been taught by volunteers, and our computer literacy classes were taught by volunteers who had actually come over to us from the Via Linda Senior Center, where they'd been teaching computer classes for, I think, almost 10 years before they started here. So about a year before the pandemic, we transferred that program here, set of computers, and set up a space and started registering for people for basic computer classes so that people could get just the basic knowledge they need to use Word or do Excel or make photo books, really simple things. And those were among our most popular programs. And our volunteers who were not allowed to work in the building have been able to transfer their programs to work from home. And they're actually doing their volunteering mostly right from their own homes. They're still, because of the COVID precautions, we don't have city volunteers in city buildings yet. So they decided they really wanted to take the ball and run with it and keep that program going. So we use our Teams, Microsoft Teams platform, and put the links to meetings in our online calendar. We register people, and the last class we had 55 people learning how to use Excel spreadsheets, which I think is amazing, because if I could avoid learning how to use an Excel spreadsheet, I would do that. But there were enough people who wanted to do it, and we had a great volunteer teaching the class, and people said they really loved it. We had a great response. So we're going to try to expand that program virtually. We've expanded and added some volunteers and had some of our old volunteers take on new roles. And we have staff who are working with the volunteers kind of as chat monitoring, wing people to help keep those programs running smoothly and make sure all of the questions for each class are answered. And it's just been a really great way to transform something that we were doing that was going well into something that's going well in a new format. Some of our programs, as you can imagine, we were showing movies and we were having lectures and doing all kinds of book discussion groups. We have had most of those things be able to move online. Our book discussion groups have moved online. We've started some new ones and continued old ones, and our staff members run those. And we've had really great response from patrons. And all of the things that we were doing that we'd really like to provide the public, we've really tried to find a way to continue to do them in this new format and in this new manner.
It's so good to hear that we are doing those things. In particular, we have so many great volunteers at the library, and the fact that we had to keep them home for so long was was difficult. I'm sure, but the fact that we can bring folks back, have them virtual, and in particular teach these literacy classes, because I'm sure that likely ties into many of the other things that you're offering within adult programming. It's
Absolutely.
fantastic to hear.
Absolutely. Well, we have some other things that we're developing. We've gotten some grants this year for doing citizen science programs, which is crowdsourced scientific research. And we're going to be taking those programs online and making them virtual as well. And we're going to premiere some of that during April for Earth Day and Arbor Day, which is a big deal in Scottsdale. And we've also gotten a grant to provide like just basic legal research information for patrons. And we are going to make that virtual as well and put that on our Pegasus branch so that it's a link people can go to and see videos and learn about what kind of information we have that they might need. So all of those things we've really taken a little time to rethink what we were planning to do, which was have programs and have a lot of people in the library and visiting and circulating all our materials. And we've really tried to make sure that we can still get people the information they need, just in a manner that's safe and secure.
Great. It's such a wealth of resources. And just to hear that we had 55 people attend a computer literacy class, it sounds like during this time, it's an opportunity to really learn a new skill, and you can do that right at home.
Absolutely. We have other resources on our website as well. We have something that's called Universal Class, which gives people all kinds of classes ranging from, French grammar to crocheting to abnormal psychology. And you can take those right on the website. They're taught by skilled accredited professionals, and you can get certificates of completion for some of the things that might improve your job skills, or you can just take something for fun and learn a new skill while you're not getting out, and mixing up and doing other social things.
Wow, I'm going to have to check that out myself. And it's to find this scottsdalelibrary.org.
Yes,
where you can find any of this information on our adult services programming and Pegasus and all the things that Erin has talked about, but not that she's not busy enough already, but to add on to that, I know that I've been fortunate to work with you and others from across the city on a Bloomberg Philanthropies training program that's focused on some human-centered design. What we're looking at really is trying to find ways to reduce the number of non-emergency health-related calls that come into our 911 system. And what we have learned through interviews with residents and others, we have found that many of these calls are coming in from seniors and their caregivers because they are socially isolated and they don't know where to turn for help. How is that related to what you do, Erin, and what have you learned from that experience?
Well, I think the whole project has really been eye-opening for me, not just in relation to the problem that we've been working on, which you just described, but with the ideas and the way we're looking at solving that problem. I think that looking at getting input from citizens, which is something we've done, and looking at a problem from the perspective of the people who are going to use our services rather than from staff who are providing services has really been enlightening for me. And that really did help me apply some of that and solve some of the issues I had when I was looking at how to make our services virtual. And I've been able to share some of that information, at library management meetings where so many of our team have been working on the same kind of problems. So when we were looking at trying to put together a website and a form for people who wanted to sign up for a library card online, we're able to try to streamline it and think about it from the point of view of the user rather than, what's going to be easiest for staff collecting that information. I think that was really helpful. And I just really like the idea of trying to remember that services are for citizens and that citizen input is really important as we go about constructing those services.
Absolutely, about listening to those needs and thinking about how we can offer whatever it is that patron needs.
That's right.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom that you can pass along to our employees about the library or its services, or anything else you want to add about the things we've already discussed, Erin?
Well, I think if you haven't been in a library for a while, you should really take a look at our website and, come into our open buildings because libraries have changed from when we were all kids. There's a lot more going on and a lot more resources. You can find so many things in the library that you couldn't even, 5 or 10 years ago. So I think that's definitely worth a look. And I also think that as we're all looking at ways to manage as we get through COVID-19 and as we restart things afterward, when I first thought about basically my whole job was offering programs that people came to at the library. And I had to look at it and figure out how to make that totally different. And it can be done. I guess that's really, I encourage everybody to really just not despair, but really to look at what they can do and they'll surprise themselves. I think we've all surprised ourselves here at the library and the response has been really great.
Those are great parting words. And we are so thankful that you could join us on the program today and take the time to talk to us about what's happening over at the library. And again, anyone who would like to learn more about adult programming, about our virtual library branch Pegasus, the city's curbside service, any of the other things that Erin talked about today, just please go to scottsdalelibrary.org. And thank you again, Erin, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That concludes our first episode of Podsdale, but we can't sign off without our trivia question. Remember, answer this trivia question correctly. Email communications@scottsdaleaz.gov and we will put you in a drawing for a fabulous prize. And we plan to announce that winner in our next episode. Here goes. What's the name of our virtual library space? Email communications@scottsdaleaz.gov with your answer. Thank you for joining us. I hope you had a great time. I know I did, and we will be back in 2 weeks. So be sure to join us and listen in.